Hey everyone, this is William Ruben Helms of the Joy of Violent Movement. I have Jessie Hartke of Midtopia and Elsewhere Fest, and self-promotion time for myself and the festival. The festival takes place as of this recording next week, the 21st and 22nd, and I will be speaking as a panelist in the afternoon of the 22nd, and I'm thrilled and excited to be taking part and to be visiting Wichita. So, Jesse, please introduce yourself and Midtopia and Elsewhere to the folks out there.
Awesome. Thanks, William. So excited to meet you in person next week, in 1 week.
Yeah, I know.
So I am the president of Midtopia, which is a nonprofit think tank that works towards creating new concepts towards allowing artists and music workers sustainable pathways within their career. Not only do we conceptualize these ideas, we also work every day to implement them. And our most timely initiative is Elsewhere Fest, which, like you stated, occurs next week, June 21st and 22nd in the amazing Wichita, Kansas. It is our inaugural year with this event, but we are so excited to share with the world what we've been working on. We have a total of 7 stages where acts will be performing, where musical acts will be performing. Our headliners are Killer Mike, Vince Staples, Steve Aoki, and Lane 8. We have, I don't even know how many visual artists we have working on it as well. Yeah. So we have visual artists from across the globe who are contributing just phenomenal ideas. We just got shipping containers placed on the Where Else lot about 2 hours ago. Muralists are already getting to work on that project. We have world-renowned artist Gleo putting a mural on one of our buildings. We also have a large social change element to our festival, which I think is a really big differentiator. We're working with a number of other social change organizations to really ingrain them within the event, to let people who attend understand all the different organizations they have access to. We're working with like 1 Million Strong to have a sober, safe space tent where people can go lounge about, enjoy a mocktail. We're also working with the Phoenix, which is a local sober, safe space that really lends itself towards healthy lifestyles. It's like got a gym just off of the footprint. And just a number of other social change organizations, like I said, to really help allow those who attend to have a transformational experience, on a multitude of levels.
Right on. So, I've mentioned Wichita and Elsewhere Fest to, friends here in New York. Mm-hmm. And, the general response when I say Wichita, Kansas is a mix of like drop jaws and confusion and a hell of a lot of Wizard of Oz jokes. I mean, the number of Wizard of Oz jokes are amazing.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that element.
So, and usually people in New York, especially, and we're East Coasters, it's flyover country to us. So, what are a couple of things about Wichita that folks outside Wichita should know? And what are things that say, I land there next week, that I have to see to get a real sense of the town?
I think our strongest asset is the people and the community. Especially, the artistic, like the musically artistic, the visually artistic community. One of the things I love most about being here is definitely in a larger market, there's expectations of what art should be. A lot of times people are producing art with the intention of, maybe, building a team around them and ensuring that their art comes across in a way that is palatable to a number of folks, to allow them, to build that team to be as marketable as possible. We don't have as much here in Wichita. And what it allows is just this immense explosion of creativity, right? People here aren't playing a show with the hopes of an agent seeing them and wanting to put them on their roster or, a situation like that. And so people are just free to create. And we have just explosions of creativity within the city that people, like you said, people don't expect to see that. People expect to, maybe see some legs under a building or, like maybe a tin man poking around. But, well, maybe, that happened once a couple decades ago.
Yeah, exactly.
The, world of cinema. No, we just have this amazingly creative, compassionate, kind community who really enjoy like just creating, who want to build each other up, who want to welcome like-minded individuals and with open arms and to help elevate their paths together.
Cool. So I have a friend who lived in Wichita. Long story, and I'm not telling her story, but she lived in Wichita. God, I was thinking about it because time is a weird flat circle, and the pandemic made things even
Right.
longer. But she lived there, I guess 20 years ago for about close to a decade. And I had mentioned the festival to her because she moved to the other side of the state. And she was like, when I was in there wasn't a lot going on at the time. So what's created that change? And what's Midtopia's role in that change?
It's the community that created that change. That's what I was talking about, right? We are folks who have not historically had a lot of resources or infrastructure. So we've built it around us. We haven't waited for somebody to come in and show us how to do things. We have created this culture around us. And really in the last, I would agree, that's the timeline, about 15 years ago, things really started to build. There have been so many people out in our community who have seen the need for cultural growth and who've made it their life work to do such. We actually just had a friend visit who left about 10 years ago. And they came back and they're like, I can't believe the change I've seen in the city. It's vibrant. It's full of just people creating and giving back. But it's hard work that's made that change. It's a lot of hard work. And how Midtopia comes in to change that, to help affect that change. So Midtopia formed approximately 2 years ago, but it was just the official organization of a number of people who have been doing this boots on the ground work. We were lucky enough to have some resources granted to us at that point. So we officially organized, we launched our nonprofit at that point, and we were able to really dedicate all of our time to creating resources and infrastructure for artists and music workers.
So onto the actual festival. What was the inspiration behind the festival?
My everything partner and I have been putting on events and festivals for 15 years. So it's just a continuation of what we've worked on in the past. For this particular event, this is something we've been, conceptualizing for a number of years. But this winter, a number of us that are working on it decided to bite the bullet and say, this is the year to launch this event. And so we've gone forth and done this. And the main inspiration behind this and everything that Midtopia does is how can we remove barriers for people who want to be a part of the music ecosystem? So how can we remove barriers, and how can we create an experience that will allow participants to transform themselves? So those are the two leading concepts behind, not just this festival, but everything Midtopia is working on.
So the conference part of the festival takes place Friday morning to late afternoon, early evening-ish, and on Saturday morning to around the same time. What will attendees gain from that, especially those who are, aspiring musicians, music workers, and the like? And what would experienced and maybe jaded music professionals get from this as well?
My main goal is a sense of community, knowledge and community. That's our main intention with the conference. Regardless of where one is at within their career path, there's always more knowledge available. And so that is our intention behind the conference element. The music industry is not always known for being willing to share knowledge, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We are an industry where gatekeeping runs rampant, and we are working to change that. How can we create an ecosystem where knowledge is freely shared, where we can lift each other up to re-envision what this industry is? I think there's a number of people who would be very willing to speak about how let's go with the word transitional.
Yeah.
Our industry is in a transitional state, right?
And it's been that way for a while, the last decade at least,
Yeah.
it seems.
And it's never been a terribly stable industry, right? But with technology developments, with the pandemic, things have sort of gone to shit.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, and it's tough. It's tough for musicians to make money. I know plenty of people that have worked in music and they got burned out and they went to other more sustainable jobs. Musicians and behind the scenes folks. It's it's difficult.
It's so
What are some of the topics that are going to be covered at the conference?
We are covering a multitude of topics. How to book your first tour, how to maintain mental health on when you're touring, when you're in the music industry. Just trying to really highlight areas that are really accessible to a lot of folks. We're not trying to be, really in the weeds in a number of areas. We want this to be accessible to all those who come, regardless of their existing knowledge within the industry. Is again, this is about sharing knowledge and about building community. So our real intention is how can we spark conversations between those involved? No matter if you're 18 years old and forming your first band, or those of us who've been around the block a few times, and as you alluded to, might be a little jaded. But for those of us like that, how do we get rid of that jadedness? How do we once again find inspiration from music, because it is such a beautiful archetypal element of the human experience, and it gets corrupted for a number of us when we allow it to dominate. We go into this industry thinking, we're so excited to let music be our lives, and then comes the reality. And
Money.
how do we rework that narrative? How do we allow music to be, joyful?
Yeah. So you've talked about the festival and the conference in many ways being accessible as possible. And the festival has an incredibly cheap price point. I haven't seen a price point like that for anything in many years. You could correct me if I'm wrong. It's $99 for the GA one day.
Nope. Start even lower.
No, I'm sorry, it's 59. My fault. It's
Yep,
59.
there you go.
But thank you. It's 59. My bad. It's 59 for one day and it's 99 for the 2 days GI.
Correct.
And it's 119 VIP one day, 199 2 day, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And it's $25 for the festival. I mean, for the conference.
I know, and there's always so many price points. And for those folks who might not have, even $60 to throw at a ticket, or are a little unsure, we have a free stage as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yep, we've got a green space downtown that we're activating that's going to be free to the public. So we're going to have Thick, Blue to Tiger, the Motet is going to be on that stage. We're going to have some food trucks at that area as well, the variety of vendors. So yeah, it's going to be a great space, regardless of how much money you got in your pocket right now.
So I'm doing some research. I saw an interview where you talked about the economic impact of a live event like a festival like this or a concert. Can you speak about that briefly, and particularly what it would mean for downtown Wichita?
Yeah, it's frequently been overlooked how large of an economic impact musical events really do have. It's a little bit dated. We're working on getting some updated information, but in 2019, the Chicago Loop study stated that for every $1 spent on a concert ticket, there's 12 additional dollars spent within that community, whether it be like coffee shops or hotel, restaurants, retail. But it's a huge economic driver for an entire community when an event takes place. And that's one of the elements of why we're so excited to bring this. Because again, it's all about building community, right? And it's not just community can't just be the musicians and the music workers, right? We're looking at this at a very holistic level, is how can we elevate the entire Wichita community with this event?
Uh, you spoke briefly about the lineup, and it is very eclectic. And when Moose brought it up to me several months ago, the term genre agnostic came up, and you mentioned Killer Mike, who's amazing, and Vince Staples, who's amazing, and Steve Aoki, and Vic from the hometown, and A Place to Bury Strangers. What was the thinking in terms of the booking? I know it's obvious country in Wichita, country in that part of the region is easy to get, but what was the thinking behind the booking of the festival?
Yeah, I want to clarify one thing on the country element. People do associate us usually with country. Why
Yes.
it gets booked so much here is because the country crowds drink the most.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's not necessarily you're going to sell the most tickets. You're going to make the most money. And due to, like we were talking about, music industry has a lot of issues right now. So that's where what we're known for. Our crowds love all sorts of music. And so we wanted to make this, again, it's accessibility on so many levels. How do we make this accessible to people who maybe feel that the type of music that they prefer isn't represented in our market? And so not only are we working towards bringing in a variety of genres that aren't traditionally thought of as like a Wichita genre, but we have intentionally programmed a number of artists who have never played this market before. So none of the headliners have played this market previously. And as you go down ticket, that fact remains. There's a number of regional and local bands on the bill because we also wanted to elevate, like I mentioned earlier, we have an amazing creative environment here. I wanted to showcase what we have, what our local homegrown music is. But our booking team wanted to ensure that people had access to something they never expected to see in Wichita.
So what is your hopes for the festival, say 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
It's the same. I want it. The true intention behind this is how can we build a community? How can we build a stronger community? How can we transform lives? It's not just the music industry that's broken, right? We're in this weird whole cultural moment where I feel like there's a lot of shifts happening and we don't know where things are going to land.
Yeah.
Everyone on board on this team with the festival and the conference, we just want to create a more creative world, right? A more palatable world, a kinder world. And if we can do that through that festival, I am going to be ecstatic.
It's much needed too, that's for sure.
Yeah, we live in such a polarized world. Let's get musical events back to at least how I've always envisioned them, right? I've spent a large portion of my life being a promoter, and I've had to do shows to pay my electric bill. And we make choices on what can we do culturally and what can we do economically.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful that Elsewhere is here to provide cultural growth and provide economic growth for the community around us. But that is not, Elsewhere Fest is not being put on for financial gain of itself. Not at all.
So the festival wraps up Saturday night. The last set ends. What's next for you in Midtopia once the festival ends Saturday night and you go to bed at some point?
I go to bed. I'm going to sleep for like a month. And then I'm going to get back up and we're going to do this all over again.
It does not stop.
Yep. That's what we're going to do. We're going to continue our artist development journeys, working with more and more artists to grant them resources to elevate their craft, to theoretically get their legs under them so they can start successful careers within the music industry and start planning this next festival. A few other initiatives we're going to be launching throughout the next year. So, getting back to conceptualizing and implementing ideas to make the music ecosystem a more accessible place. Well,
thank you for speaking to me. I'm looking forward to being in Wichita and meeting you and your lovely other half in person and everybody else. And one more time, y'all, it's next week. It's the 22nd and the 23rd.
21st and 22nd.
You see, I'm missing updates. Yeah,
you're good, William. I'm glad. somebody always is going to mess up the dates. It's usually me. So I'll let you do it this time.
Yes, it's the 21st and the 22nd in beautiful downtown Wichita, Kansas. If you're in the region, you're in the neighborhood, come on through. It's a great lineup. There's great folks. There's art, there's food, there's booze if you do drink, and there's sober areas for you if you don't. It's for everybody. And it's a great, great initiative. And you'll be helping a lot of great folks out.
And we have free water.
Oh, of course, because it's going to be hot next week.
It's,
I looked at the forecast. I mean,
for Wichita, it's not that
summer.
bad. It could be worse. But no, we're very excited. We figured out a path that we were going to be able to offer free water to all festival participants.
Oh, hell yeah. That's going to be much needed.
Right? I know. There's no $8 bottle of waters here.
Well, thank you. And again, next week, y'all. And if you're in the region, come on through.
Yeah, come on down. There's still plane tickets available, even if you aren't in the region. Come have fun.
Well, yeah, it's a flight, if you can afford it, come on down. If you're 7, 8 hours drive. Oh, which reminds me, I've seen a friend of mine that's in Omaha. She had sent me a picture. They had an ad for the festival in downtown Omaha.
We're flying all over the region. We want to highlight what Wichita can do. I know the stereotypes that are out there about Wichita. We're going to change it. I am so excited to let the world know about the beauty that exists in this city.
Well, come on down to beautiful Wichita, yeah, and see it for yourself. And your mind is going to be changed on this town. And again, thank you for taking the
Thank you,
time
William.
out of a
Excited to
very,
meet you
very
in person.
yeah, I know. And thank you for taking the time out of, I know, a very, very busy period as you're setting things up for next week.
Yeah. It'll all be worth it. I'll sleep in July.
Thank you.
Thank you, William.